Well, aren't you lucky? Aren't you smart? You have found the Friday Night Live post-game podcast. Caden McFarland here in our podcast studio. Dan Lindblad there at Chateau Lindblad with the you beaten anybody in a dartboard game here since we talked to you last?
Undefeated in darts, actually. I am this side on the. We played. My brother was in town last
Uh-huh.
weekend. We played cricket. Undefeated.
You're a winner. How about that? Congratulations.
Big Ted Lasso guy. I give him a speech every time I'm about to beat him
Give
too.
the speech. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, well, maybe you can one day aspire to be our Channel 2 Player of the Week if we ever let dartboard
Be a part of it.
dominance
I'm
over
pushing for it. Hopefully
yeah,
one day.
dartboard dominance over family factor in. Okay, let's dive into week 5. We have passed the midpoint of the high school football regular season here in the state of Oklahoma, and once again we were surprised by a result at the top. The Jenks Trojans falling to Westmore 16-12 the final. For the second time this year, Jenks loses at home to a West Side team in a game in which they had the ball certainly inside the 10-yard line with a chance to win the game. And it doesn't happen. And so, the context here, they started the season 0-2 and pulled off the upset in the Backyard Bowl and then mopped the floor with Enid in their district opener. And I think we probably just assumed, okay, this is Jenks. This is what they do. They get better and better as the year goes on. And that's a surprising result without question, Dan.
And when I got there after going to the Victory Christian game for a little bit, I got there about halfway through the first quarter, and they were already down 7-0. Okay, who cares? Westmore could have scored on the opening drive. I don't know how they got that 7 points, but could have scored on the opening drive. Okay, then Jinx will start rolling. They'll be up 28-7 by halftime. But they kept getting the ball into the red zone just like they did at the end of the game, getting the ball into the red zone. They had it at the 1, and then I think they had an illegal shift. They had back-to-back 5-yard penalties that pushed them back, ended up attempting a field goal, and I believe that field goal was missed. So they left plenty of points on the board. Yeah. And when you do that against the team that you're supposed to beat, that's tough to recover from because they could have easily had at least 14 points there. And then you combine that with an ill-advised safety in the third quarter that made it a 4-point game, made them try to get that touchdown late. That's all the difference you need in this game. And, it's high school football. Anybody can beat anybody on any night when you're not giving your best.
Yeah, but for a very, very long time, we watched Jenks and Union both. There was no anybody can beat anybody on a given night when it came to outside opponents. And that has changed. Before 2019, and I believe it was Edmond Santa Fe who got him that year in Jenks, they had won 53 in a row against the West Side. Jenks had. At home, I believe. And this is now at least 4 losses since 2019 and 3 in the last 2 years at home against West Side teams. And so, part of what you take away from this is I think the West Side is capable of being more competitive. Maybe they don't see that Jenks or Union logo and tremble in fear in quite the same way. All of those teams now, well, not all, but several of them have come over here and found a way to have success, sometimes on the home field of one of our East Side powers, sometimes even in the playoffs. So I don't know that those games are the foregone conclusion that they were for the first full decade that I was here. But more importantly, for fans of Green Country High School football, this Jenks Trojans team, when they put everything together offensively, when they're just on it, they are capable of producing some good stuff. But it's also obvious that if they don't have everything working, they are a little more challenged than what we've come to expect generally from a Jenks Trojans team.
In today's day and age, if you're a defense and you give up only 2 touchdowns, you feel pretty good about your chances of winning the game, right? So that's where we kind of look at the offense. And again, it's some of the similar problems that we've been seeing all year round is that the quarterback position is still just not solidified. There are a lot of overthrown balls. And then if a ball is thrown right on the money, the receivers drop it occasionally, which,
it's not all
guys developing their game, but that's not going to get it done.
Yeah. No question. This Jenks team, kind of, what we saw last year where there were weeks when, boy, that doesn't look like Jinx. And then by the end of the year, they were able to put it all together and beat Bixby. Now we've seen them put it all together and beat Union. But it doesn't have the same consistency that we're used to, that you think of when you think of Jinx football for the last 25 years. And so this team certainly has some players, and you start with KD Jones. Obviously, that's a dynamic talent. They've got some pieces, and defensively, that'll be there. That'll travel and be there all year long. But offensively, this is a team that simply probably can't afford to shoot itself in the foot. Doesn't seem capable of overcoming 1st and 15 or, right, 2nd and 20 in the way that, maybe some other teams do. Just not a lot of margin for error. And so
it kind of makes you wonder if they're going to start putting more Wildcat packages in for KD Jones, because they did it late in the second quarter facing a 4th, and I think it was 7. And yeah, just give him the ball, block, he's going to find his way. He got a 1st down, and again, that's what kind of led him into the red zone, where the penalties ended up backing them up, and they don't get any points out of that drive. If
they could clone him, they'd really be onto something, because I think he's also their best.
Get 11 of him on the field, and that's a spectacle.
Do they have a West Side problem? That's interesting to consider. Norman North, another West Side team that came over here and got a win over the weekend, beating Broken Arrow 28-14. But on the other end of the spectrum, you had Mustang, who had defeated Owasso in each of the last 2 meetings between those two. Linebacker Cale Pennington said, "We took it personal," pulled out the Michael Jordan Last Dance reference. And Owasso puts it on Mustang 54-3, a bounce-back win after losing to Union by 33 last week. A real statement win in that rivalry with Mustang, and you have cousins coaching against each other, Lee and Bill Blankenship. What a big win for the Owasso Rams, huh?
And I think that kind of solidifies that district will be Union Owasso, because Mustang was undefeated coming into that game, and a lot of people thought, hey, maybe maybe Mustang is going to kind of establish themselves and make a statement to Union saying, hey, we're in this place too. We're here to play football. You better be ready whenever you play us. And then if you're Union watching that and seeing that score, you got to feel pretty confident, as should Owasso feel pretty confident that they're going to end up finishing number 2 in this district and have their path to the state championship game be a little bit easier and less more winding, and you don't have to go out to the west side, maybe a game or two. So yeah, that was a huge result for Owasso to get that win.
No question. Owasso was dominant in the trenches in that ball game, both sides of the ball. And going back to August the 25th, when they played Bixby in week 0, I thought that's where Owasso might be able to stand up to Bixby better than anybody else in the state. And it didn't materialize that way that night, but it's a great reminder that, especially on the offensive line, where cohesion matters so much, what you are on August the 25th is not what you're going to be on September the 29th, and certainly not what you're going to be in early November. And I think this Owasso team up front has the material to go and play with anybody. Obviously, we saw the result in week 0 against Bixby. That was what it was, but that doesn't mean that is what this team's ceiling is. I think what we saw against Mustang, 54-3 as a final, and as a bounce-back game after disappointing loss to Union, that gives you a glimpse now. We've had at least a couple of times here this year where we've seen Owasso at its very best. And, so it has been, heads are spinning a little bit with regard to trying to make sense of 6A1 and putting, these teams in a pecking order. What can we count on? What do we know for sure? Well, we know the Bixby Spartans are going to get after 60 people on a Friday night. 66-0 was the final.
Or a Thursday night. I mean,
or on a Thursday night.
They're playing. They'll line up any day of the week.
As they went out west and beat Southmore. I believe that is 66-1 in their last 67 ball games. So as we said last week, we'll just continue to give our flowers to Bixby. And they're doing it. I thought coming into the year when they were going with 3 quarterbacks, this is a team that's probably going to rely on the run a whole lot. They find ways to throw the ball. They are really balanced, and in fact, throw the ball for more yardage than they run as often as not. And we saw it was Kirby who had 3 touchdown passes, but all of those quarterbacks sort of have the throws they can make. And, this offense kind of knows exactly who to go to and where and how. And it makes you wonder, are they really only practicing 2 hours a week over there at Bixby? Just the way these kids are on it, the schematics, the fact that it's all so tailored and different every single week. We talked about that last week as well. Just blows my mind what these kids are able to pull off with, the limited practice time you have each week.
Well, and shout out real quick to my guy, Sam McCormick, because when I saw him against Norman North, he recovered a safety, or he tackled the quarterback in the end zone for a safety. And then I think it was the next drive or the drive after, he caught a long touchdown pass down the sideline. This past Thursday, he threw a touchdown pass. So again, if you don't think Bixby has just pure athletes that can just line up anywhere on the field, then it's time to wake up, because anybody on that field, any position, can switch around and play two or three more. And if that's not the definition of a team, then I don't know what is.
McCormick's a really good player. He's the one with an Ivy League offer, right? Like Princeton or somebody, I think, has offered him. Probably maybe a couple of others in that family as well. I mean, that's a sharp kid and a good ball player, no question. All right, so there is your 6A1 wrap. Once again, Bixby is the number one team in the state without question. Union's the number two team in the state without question. I think you can say that Owasso's number three without question. And then when you get to Jenks and Mustang and Broken Arrow, and it depends on which week you're talking about. Let's go to Class 5A, where we had 6 of our best teams all going head-to-head, sort of, right, in 3 great games. Claremore beating Grove 30-14. Claremore pulling away in that ball game. Bishop Kelly beating Collinsville. Maybe a bit of a surprise there, 39-28 the final. And one of our plays of the week was the biggest play in this one. That's Jack Dionisio, 88-yard pick six, as Collinsville was rallying in that ball game within 6 points and driving. And he intercepts and goes back 88 yards to basically put the thing away. And then in our game of the week, Coweta beat Sapulpa 24-19. The high-powered Sapulpa offense versus that really great Coweta defense. 5 interceptions for the Coweta defense. Noah Cooper to Kevon Robinson was a connection on offense that paid off for the Tigers. An 89-yard touchdown, their final TD of the night. We had a really great game of the week, did we not?
Yeah, and it always felt like going into it that if Coweta could hold Sapulpa to that 20-point neighborhood, then they would feel pretty good about it, because Coweta can get explosive plays. We've seen that with Lolo Bell on special teams, and we've seen it with Kevon doing the long touchdowns. We've seen the explosive plays, and it's just the consistency of it. So you felt like if the Coweta defense could hold that Sapulpa offense as they did, I mean, getting 5 interceptions in a game, you've got to feel good about that. So their ability to shut them down, and really it's all about limitations when you're facing a team like Sapulpa in that offense. The fact that they were able to do that was just, again, it's huge momentum moving forward. And their 2 losses still are to Wagner and to Carl Albert. I mean, show me 2 better losses of anybody in 5A, and I'll believe it at that point. But Coweta's still going to be a team here in 5A as we start reaching toward the end of districts and into the playoffs.
You know, is Sapulpa still a team that would scare anybody, especially with the offense? But I just love kind of the DNA of a winning team. I mean, that was a district championship team that got to 11-0 last year before losing in the playoffs. Coweta, I'm talking about. Coach Tim Harper has done such a great job. They just build and build year after year, but they lost a lot of really important.
Yeah, they're an extremely young team too.
They're a young team, and you know the home crowd obviously I think factored in the other night, but you know, young players making winning plays, holding the rope. When you're going to do it with defense first, gosh, that can be tough over the course of 48 minutes against a team that has the weapons that Sapulpa has. That was a really quality win for Coweta. I don't know that their ceiling can possibly be quite as high as it was last year, but a win like that shows you, hey, like, look out, right? I mean, this team remains really strong culturally, and that was a heck
you can point to. And whenever times are getting tough, hey guys, remember, we did this. We have this capability. So whenever they're facing a team with a frightening offense, they won't be so timid, and they'll have that little bit of confidence. And that's where you want to. A lot of people talk about having amnesia, not forgetting about the last play, it's about the next play. But sometimes that's good to have whenever you need that little bit of reassurance about what you're able to do. Obviously, don't hang your hat on it and don't say, we're this team, we're going to do this forever. But if you need that little bit of reassurance and confidence, you can always look back at it.
All right, so our game of the week we mentioned last week, Coweta Sapulpa, that was a good one. We're hoping for a good one next week as we just keep moving on down further southeast.
Our first October FNL season.
What's that?
Our first October FNL
season. And it's actually
that football started to heat up whenever that calendar turns to the 10th month of the year.
I'm ready for it. As we go to Wagner taking on Cushing in a rematch of last year's state title game, which was just an all-timer. Cushing beating Wagner in the regular season last year 42-0, and then Wagner finding a way to put together just sort of a perfect game and beating a Cushing team that was a wrecking ball all of last season until that final Friday night. So they hook it up.
I think it was on a last-second field goal too, was it not?
I believe it was. Yeah. So you'll talk to both coaches and we look forward to that matchup. What do you say we do our top 5 plays of the weekend? I'm going to let you lead it off. We had Beggs and Victory Christian in a fun ball game that had some big plays, long touchdowns by the Beggs superstars Red Martell and Ryan Grayson. But you've got the other side, a different play at number 5.
Yeah, how about I treat you to a 2-point conversion, huh? Aiden Hamilton, the former quarterback at Beggs, now at Victory Christian, very, very creative mentally. He sits here in the pocket, he rolls out, keeps his eyes downfield, and eventually finds his guy in the end zone for the 2-point conversion. But again, we're going to emphasis on the spin move, and that's creativity that you get from a senior quarterback who has something like 100 touchdowns in his high school career.
Number four, a lot of long touchdowns in our plays of the week. Here is one of them. Trey Pope of Central High School up top to a Marion Penny. That is a 90-yard touchdown. Pope to Penny. That's just fun to say. Central losing to Cassia Hall in this ball game, but that's one heck of a play. Number 3, Dan, your alma mater, Broken Arrow.
Yeah, it is spooky season, of course, so let's get a little trick-or-treat going. We got a fake field goal. Keaton Johnson is throwing to Cooper Bates, who is the Tigers quarterback, but also says, I got some hands of my own. He races in 32 yards for the touchdown on the fake field goal. Again, Broken Arrow not able to get on top, but they do get the number 3 play of the week.
Number 2, we mentioned it just a bit ago. The context is everything here. Jack Dionisio of Bishop Kelly with an 88-yard pick six. Collinsville was within a touchdown and driving to perhaps take the lead. He picks off the pass and takes it all the way back. And that was Curtin's big win for Kelly over Collinsville. Number 1, Dan, another pick six.
I raise you 88 with a 101. Union's Devin Jordan getting the interception in the end zone and taking it the other way for the Redhawks. A 101-yard pick six for the 4-star. Just, you talk about killing momentum and bringing it to the other side. That is how you do it. It's tough to score a 100-yard touchdown, but Union's Devin Jordan makes it look so easy, and that's why he's the number 1 play of the week.
4-star recruit. Big time player. We're going to stay right at Union with another potential. One day he may be a 4-star recruit. I think he's a 3-star at the moment, but a guy who's going to play at a high level. Our player of the week, you caught up with him last week, Shaker Rising.
Yeah, my guy, Shake and Bake, huh? We've talked about him obviously a lot as he deserves. One of the just prettiest spirals that we see this year in high school football, and I've seen in quite a while.
Are you talking about Shaker still? I thought maybe you meant me from the video you tweeted out Friday.
You did throw it from like 50 yards. So, I mean, the football sizes was different. So I feel like Shaker could probably do that from like 70 or 80. But
I wonder if people ask him. Yeah. I wonder if people ask him about my spiral. Probably.
I think they do. I think I asked him about that off camera, and I think he said that he emulates his spiral after what he's seen from you.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
I like it.
Awesome kid, awesome quarterback, and we'll hear a little bit more from him right now. First off, congratulations on the big win. I know that was a win that meant a lot to you this past week.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was a lot to all of us. You know, last year semifinals. You know, we didn't forget about that. So I mean, it was a redemption time for us. We had to come out swinging. You know, coming off that loss, and kind of started a different mindset in us and all the team. So we were ready to go. Had a great week of practice, so it was good.
5 touchdowns passing, 6 touchdowns total. Did you anticipate having that much of an impact in that game?
I never really anticipate having. I don't set standards. I just go out there and play. So I'm glad it happened. You know, I felt really good out there, really comfortable. O-line did a great job protecting me that night. So it was fun, super fun.
Boy, and he puts it right in the breadbasket.
We've talked in our office a little bit about the spiral you throw and just how pretty it looks. Usually I have guys kind of go through a play or two with me. I'm going to have you go through your throwing process. How did you learn to throw?
It was a long process, you know. I've always kind of had a quick release. I've worked on it a lot, but that kind of came natural. But all the other stuff, all my mechanics, you know, I constantly worked on it for years and years. So it didn't come easy, I'll tell you that, a lot of hard work. But yeah, just constantly working on it.
As only a junior, you're starting to really see the recruitment process develop a little bit. How are you keeping focused what's going on the field while your recruitment's starting to heat up on the back end?
Right, yeah. You know, I'm talking to coaches every day, but it's, like I said, I tell them, you know, it's football season right now, so I'll worry about everything else after the season. But I'm focused on one goal, you know, getting the gold ball at the end of the season. I got to focus on my team, so that's what I tell them.
All right, that was a good conversation, Dan. Thank you for getting out there and talking to Shaker, and you know, looking at the nominees, if you will, for Player of the Week this week. We have a tough decision. We have a tough decision.
Yeah.
Might be heading down to Muskogee. Maybe, maybe not. My guy Bird.
That was on the calendar eventually. The way
Well,
Bird's been playing.
It's a possibility. But tune in tomorrow night or Monday night. I don't know when you're listening to this for our game ball segment as we give you our nominees for player of the week. All right, Dan, thank you so much for your time and insight here on the FNL postgame podcast. We're more than halfway through. How about that? Week 5 in the books, which is actually week 6. I've already messed it up because it is week 5 on the high school football schedule, but I have said that for this podcast, I'm not doing that. So week 6 of the FNL postgame podcast is actually in the books. Dan, I'm afraid to play you in darts now. Now that I know that you're hustling people and giving speeches, I really want no part of it.
But I'm locked in. I mean, you want to might have lost the Ryder Cup, but they win at darts here.
And that's right. Why don't you throw one real quick before we go? This is going to be Dan Lindblad. Yep, turning the camera. Let's see what he's got with the old dartboard. If I knew more dart terms, I would use them.
Right,
we're looking for the middle, right? The bullseye.
Bullseye. I mean,
give us a bullseye.
For 60 points, so that's the spot.
Okay, Dan's going for 60 points. Let's see if he can do it, folks. This is high. Whoa, that doesn't seem great, Dan. Where are you trying? Did you get to 60? I can't tell.
Okay,
little high.
Still there.
Little high.
That's a combined. Let me do the math. 12 points.
Okay.
I missed the first 2.
So, as also an OSU alum, I'm going to say that up and outside. That's Gunnar Gundy.
Hey, chill out.
And then it's Rangel, and then Bowman closer to them. Is that? Am I going to get myself in trouble?
It's not good.
Am I going to get myself in trouble? That's it for the FNL postgame podcast, folks. Dan, Caden, thanks.